So guys, after these first few miles, I just thought I'd comment a little bit on this ride in my Pontiac Firebird 71. This car has been modified to a certain extent. It has a 500 cubic inch fuel injected engine. You can see the display of the fast fuel injection system there. So it shows you your air fuel, battery voltage and everything, and so the whole thing takes more or less care of itself. The engine has not yet really been broken in. I just drove let's say a few hundred kilometers with this car, so I'm about to take it easy. Today's ride was to test out the new Quicksilver shifter that we put in, which allows you to shift up and down by just pushing and pulling on the stick. So that means that you can confidently shift your gears, which is normally not so easy with the normal automatic shifter. You could get into the wrong gear, ruin the whole car and everything, so that's not going to happen here. But I also disengaged the kickdown on the TH400, and as you can see, you know, even in these tight turns I have quite a good road holding. We have stronger brakes, 17-inch wheels, so this is actually a nice car to drive. Let's give it a little gas, not too much, you know, but you know, if you break in an engine, you know, I think it's also not good to do it too soft. I think you should have varying speeds, varying RPMs, and you know, a little stab on the gas. I mean, this is just half throttle, should also help the rings to seal. So I hope this gives you an idea of what this thing does. It's I would say it's a street setup. It's not a full-blown pro touring thing, but it's still relatively comfy. The engine has been built for torque and not for high RPM horsepower, so I also have no high stall converter because, you know, I like to get this gigantic push just off idle, and I think that's the beauty of these big engines. I don't see a point in, you know, making high revving sewing machines out of them if you don't drag race. I mean, that doesn't make sense, and on the street you need the torque down low and in the middle where it counts. So this is what we did here, and you know, basically it runs on the stock suspension with just some better shocks. I have coilovers in the front that I can adjust in height and all other parameters, and well, we got better brakes than the stock brakes, because I think even if you have a stock engine, they still have so much power you can get yourself into trouble. And the problem is, you know, in the old days everybody else also had bad brakes, so if somebody slammed the brakes in front of you, you know, it took that guy 200 feet to get to a stop, and if it took you 180 or so, you were good, you had enough space there. But nowadays, you know, even a small car has much better brakes than these old muscle cars had from the factory. So if that guy in that small shitty modern car hits the brakes, you know, you're more than likely to just crash into them. And you know, with the crash technology of these cars, I mean, they didn't have the crumple zones and everything. I mean, I have a nice seat belt in here, and I think for their day they were maybe pretty decent and safe cars, but by today's standards, I mean, if you crash somebody at, let's say, 30 miles an hour or so, I mean, the other guy has a modern car and you have a classic car, chances are that, you know, that guy steps out and has nothing because of airbags and so on, you know, while, you know, they have to put you in a helicopter and off to the next hospital because you've broken almost every bone in your body. So this is why my biggest advice, if you see me driving an old car, is, you know, always drive with that in mind. And this is why you see me here driving out of the city. You know, normally when I take a drive in my cars, I take the shortest way out of the city and go onto rural roads. And I think, you know, two reasons. One, I'm old enough not to have to show off these cars. you know, because sooner or later you learn that you're not only making friends with this. And number two, and maybe the biggest thing, or 2 out of 3, is that it's much safer, because most accidents happen in city environments. You know, you have people not taking care, they don't pay attention, they're playing on their smartphones, they're just, you know, hitting the brakes, they're not using the blinker signals and so on, so the turn signals, and you know, that adds up to a lot of situations where you could end up in a crash, which wouldn't be bad if you had a modern car. I mean, then your cars crash, but usually nothing would happen to you at these slow speeds. While being in an old car, it might be totally different. It might be that you just, you know, you get killed in a 30-mile crash if you just have a lap belt and a fixed steering column. I mean, just guess what's going to happen. So, and number 3 is, and I think that maybe the most important, is that it's much more fun to drive these cars out on country roads instead of, you know, driving through the city, because as you can see here, it's stop and go. It's a you know, it's a UPS driver. It's somebody's always holding up traffic. You know, you're just sitting there idling. You know, the car doesn't like it, you don't like it, so why should you do it? So this is why I say, you know, if you drive a classic car, go to the country roads, stay out of the traffic, and I think your car will thank you for it. It's not as likely to overheat, and I also think that, you know, you will have much more fun out of the driving experience. Okay, but if you have this car to attract girls, of course you have to go to the city, but you know, I'm already